Hi, what you see is an old pair of blue jeans, a pile of clothing that may or may not be done with its life, maybe to be donated, some old kitchen towels, possibly just a little bit of use left in them. And we might normally view these clothes as trash, that they're done, but not quilters. Quilters take old clothes and they recycle them and repurpose them into blankets and quilts, particularly the Amish. The Amish felt like every piece of clothing worn by a human must be reused into a quilt. I find this a beautiful idea, and I also love the way the Amish would have quilts made individually, and all quilters individually. You can create your own vision of a quilt, or you can work in an ensemble in a quilt circle and create a quilt that the whole group works on. What you have in front of you now is some old cigar boxes, a pile of twigs and matchsticks. That must be trash, right? Nope. Not in the world of tramp art. In the Depression, what amazes me is people took discarded pieces of wood, bits of matchstick ends, and created these gorgeous pieces of art. It's called tramp art, as I said, and these tramp artists were just folk artists, untrained, and making the best of times during the Depression. This piece is actually my favorite because I think it's beautiful and I think it shows so much detail, and it also shows hope that maybe someone was down on their luck cobbling together these little bits of wood to create such a beautiful piece of art. Here's some postage stamps. You think you might be done with those, right? They've already delivered the mail. We're done using them. But no, postage stamps also have a recycled, repurposed life, and it's called stamp art. And what happens is these artists make these beautiful pieces of stamp art, postage stamp art, from recycled, canceled stamps. And I love this for all the same reasons that I love quilts and tramp art, postage stamp art. Create something from what you think is nothing that has no potential. I've actually given postage stamp art a try. Here's one of the first pieces I ever made. I'm very proud of this piece because it was a risk. I just jumped in and gave it a try, and I enjoyed making this recycled art. Postage stamp art has changed how I look at the world. I now look at nature and see, instead of leaves on a tree, what I see is a bunch of recycled stamps and wonder if I could recreate that as an artist. I have made this piece that was sort of inspired by that fall tree. I made this piece while I was recovering from cancer, so it's near and dear to my heart. This piece spent a lot of time with me in the middle of the night when I wasn't able to sleep, and I look back on it and I remember that time fondly. This is also a piece of stamp art that I made recently during the lockdown. As soon as the pandemic hit, I thought, wow, change is upon us. So I call this the winds of change, or the wind of change is upon us. And I've also enjoyed including my nieces in stamp arting. We've had so much fun around the kitchen table, sort of creating our own quilt circle, if you will, with making postage stamp art. And I have so many lovely memories spending time with them as well. So, piecing all this together, why am I telling you about quilts and tramp art and postage stamp art? Because it's something about me that I've realized I like taking things that aren't necessarily related, that you might think don't have any potential and are done, and putting them together. I have been an improviser for a long time. 30 years my career has been spent teaching and performing improv, and I think improv is like an Amish quilt circle in a sense, because it's people coming together to create a piece of group art. The place I mainly performed at recently closed, the I.O. Chicago, formerly known as Improv Olympic. It had a nice 40-year run, but it just couldn't survive the pandemic and the lockdown, as many businesses can't, and has sadly closed. I've jumped on Zoom to teach improv and perform improv. I'm very lucky that Zoom is available. We're all making the best of it, but Zoom is not a perfect platform, as we all know. There's a lot of problems with Zoom, and it's easy to dislike it. It's easy to view Zoom as old matchsticks, things that should be discarded, something that we should give no attention to and should just trash and be done with Zoom. But we don't have that luxury. Zoom is here to stay, so I'm trying to find something positive. I'm trying to say yes to it. Recently, I went to a Zoom wedding. I don't know if you've been to a Zoom wedding, but they're not awful. You're actually involved with the bride and groom. You have a beautiful time. It's not perfect, but it also reminded me of a quilt. And as I'm sitting there looking at the Zoom wedding, I thought, wow, this kind of reminds me of a Amish quilt. And everyone has come together from different parts of the world for one reason, And so I'm finding the positivity in that. Thank you.